Thank you. Call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, we acknowledge the town of Edson is located on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral lands of the Nahiiwak, Saulteaux, Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and the Otipemisiwak Métis nations. We honor the knowledge of this land, the elders and youth which gather here, and our ancestors who have gathered here for centuries. Can I get someone to present a motion to adopt the agenda for our meeting? Councillor Holden.
I motion that the agenda for the December 9th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get someone to present a motion to adopt the minutes from our September 9th, 2025 Council Committee of the Whole meeting? Councillor Wilson-Lair.
I move that the minutes of the September 9th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, on to presentations and delegations. Our first presentation tonight is from Reflections, and it is about coldest night of the year. I'd like to welcome our representatives from Reflections. Thank you so much. If you could just key up your mic there. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brody, and this is Anne, and we're from Reflections, and we are presenting about the coldest night of the year. It is a national charity that has reached out to us. Actually, the food bank recommended us to them, and they are a charity based out of, what did they say, Ottawa, and they help put on fundraisers for small nonprofits like us in small towns and big cities that fundraise money and some
increase awareness of mental health and homelessness. And that's a big key part, is fundraising, but also making that communities more aware of that. And that shows all the cities in Canada and the United States who participate.
so it would be like a walkathon type of thing, and you could sign up for a 2-kilometer or a 5-kilometer, and it would start and end at Reflections with a warm meal and drinks provided at the end. And you sign up and you can sponsor and make donations, and you can make teams and team captains, and you can challenge other people and other groups. And
it's a glorified walkathon with people participating and walking together as a team down Main Street and wearing your nice toques, and advertising and supporting the people, our clients that we have in particular have mental health issues and homelessness. And it's hopefully not the coldest night of the year, but
you probably won't get that lucky, but that's kind of the point of it,
to make you aware. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the first year is always the hardest, so obviously this is our first year doing it, so we're just kind of looking for some more support and overall help and support, and then it's hopefully something that we'll do every year, and then it'll get easier. So there's more stuff to do this year, but then next year it should be a breeze. And an organization, Hinton, does it. I think this is their second or third year, and we reached out and talked to them, and they said this year's a breeze compared.
But as a competitive community, we're going to beat Hinton. We hope.
Yeah, that's...
Just go back one, I think. Yeah, and so those are the different communities across Canada, and sort of, so they base this on small communities, because you can do something in a larger city, but in a smaller one, you've got a tighter knit community, and you have, Vanier competing against Parkland, or teams, trying to one-up each other and getting involved. And I find that when I was involved with soccer or wrestling or anything, small communities have some big strengths, and this plays on those. So those are the kind of communities that that participate. So what's the first thing we do?
So the first thing you do, we have a website that you guys or anyone can sign up on, and it's super easy. And you can sign up under team captain. So Anne has a team, I have a team, a couple people have a team, or you can create your own team, and you can sponsor or donate or just sign up and walk. And you pick the 5 kilometer or the 2 kilometer, and it's super easy. The website's super simple.
Very user friendly. So all you got to do is Google coldest night of the year, or CNOB, and it brings up that site. You drop down and look for, it'll say what community, and if you start typing in Edson, it'll give you Edson and Hinton, and you click on it and it'll show you the different teams that are already there. If you click on one of the teams, it shows who's already signed up. Cheat has already done that. Recycling Depot, I think Scope is shortly. So that is where, and it's very user friendly for us, so we can track. So you started with a sort of a central group being Barb Shepherd, Brody, Deanna, right, and myself and a couple others. And so we're always looking for people to help organize it. But that's the group, and we're starting to send out letters and
Yeah,
info.
we also have a poster with just a scan barcode, and it'll take you right to the sign in, and it's super easy.
I've never seen actually a site that was so user friendly and user accessible, because I think they've done it because they've done so many that they've got the kinks worked out of it. Part of it, they do the receipts and everything else, so they take a portion depending on how much you do. But that advertising and backup and support and website, I think is worth it for sure.
That's just for
So once you sign on, you just get a team. So it's like a staff sort of bonding experience, so that you can have competitions within the town or the county. You can sign on people, do various things. And
challenge other groups to make it a little fun, competitive.
yeah.
And that's just more about them. We don't need that. And that's the website that you sign up on, and it'll tell you a bunch of information about it too, more about them.
And so the registration, you can, you have your own personal page, and so you can track everyone on your team. And so part of it is, our job is knowing who those team leaders are, and every now and then checking in, saying, how's it going with your team? Do you need some help? That kind of.
That's just the website.
Yeah, and this is all the information we can get from our site as to how many sponsors there were, who was the largest, how's it going. So at any point, we can go to that site and look at what the stats are and charts, and where do we have to put more energy into.
And that's what it'll look like with the teams, and then who signed up to walk, and you can see and track it.
And so they actually come back and give you the receipts when you enter in, and you can do it online, or you're going to have
pledge forms.
And that you drop off at Reflections, and Miss Brody is going to enter it all?
Yes, I do already have the pledge forms too.
Yeah. And so this is these are some of the companies that support this nationally.
Yes, that the Coldest Night already has ties with, I guess.
Yeah. And so we'll be following this up with more emails and more direct contact with everyone. But our challenge right now, we want to challenge the town of Edson as a staff, and maybe the staff versus counselors, or together as a team. We're looking at the group with the best costumes, because some people have already decided how they're going to dress up for it. Maybe the largest corporate sponsor, or those kind of fun sort of community building. And so this is the alternative for in the summer, we have the golf program, right? We'd like to do this as a winter kind of activity and maybe share, I think we're gonna work with the food bank and maybe at the end have a donation for the food bank and as much networking and visibility as possible.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you so much. Anyone on council have any questions? Councillor Wilson-Lair.
I just think this is a wonderful idea and have something in the winter time that actually gets us out in the cold and maybe a little bit of reflection on that. I was wondering, and maybe it was presented and I just missed it in the slides, but how much of the actual donations would stay in Edson and benefit Reflections and the food bank? Or is it a national, like it would go nationally and then there would be maybe a percentage that stays here for us or for you and your organization?
Yeah, so the average is depending how much it varies on how much we raise and then how much of they need to take, but I think the average was at 78% to up to 80 something. So it's quite a bit just because they help so much with, like, they do all the receipts, they do all the background annoying
Yeah,
stuff. We get the free
advertising.
toques and the free, so, but it is a pretty good.
Yeah, I think it goes on a sliding scale. Up to
Yeah.
49,000 raised, you get 80% back. If it's over that, you even get more. So, so you try to get with it.
It's quite a bit, but I think the more you raise, the more you get to keep. Or I guess maybe the,
Yeah, and the other thing is awareness. So people say, well, because we're right now at the threshold of minus 25. If you're out there walking and it's minus 20, you're going to find out pretty quickly that minus 25, well, minus 10 is very hard. So it's awareness, bringing people into the program and seeing that there is a lot of people in our community that have mental health challenges and homeless.
thank you.
So Brody is taking on this task, and this is her first initiation.
Yeah.
So, but she's doing a great job.
Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to our presenters, great presentation. And it looks like a very interesting concept, and I guess I kind of support it. As an organization, do you kind of have a financial goal in mind where you'd like to be, a target?
I don't think I can answer this whole question, but we did set an average goal for this specific as 20,000.
And I think that's reasonable and obtainable. I mean, I'd like to see more 40,000. There's a lot of businesses in this community that I think could tap into this and make it a team building.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Holden.
Yes, through the chair to the Reflections Group. Just wondering, this is on February 28th?
Yes.
Okay, 2026. So you're already hit the ground running. So it's basically, I think it's a great idea. I think mental health and homelessness is a very tied together
Yeah.
happening, and that's what it is. So I definitely would like to support that too.
They set up a schedule for you, right, Brody? That this month is when you should start doing this. It's very well laid out.
It is, and I have lots of support background support with putting all of this on. Like, they help me, they send me weekly checklists, and if there's something I can't do on my own, yes, so it's February 26th, the last Saturday of the month. I think walking starts at 4 p.m. And then we'll have I don't think we've decided what meal yet, but some sort of warm meal at the end and hot drinks to warm
Maybe
everyone's-
along the way at the 2 kilometer.
Yeah.
Look, we haven't, that's a personal touch that we can do.
Yeah,
But
warm everyone's bones after a cold walk.
Mayor Zahara.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It sounds like it's going to be an exciting event, and put Hinton on notice right now. Mayor Labarge, you're on notice that Edson's going to raise more money than you. So
Okay.
I'm sure you'll see many of us around supporting, and wish you all the best of luck with your event, and certainly will help you get the word out to the community, and hopefully get people to support such an important cause in our community. And you're completely right, Miss Orietti, walking around at -10, it's pretty cold outside. So once it gets even colder than that, I challenge anybody to spend, outside at -25 without the proper gear on, and see how cold you are. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your event.
I have one other little quick thing for tomorrow. We're having seniors, or our appreciation day for the Recycling Society. We moved it to Reflections because it's much bigger, and a bigger kitchen, and more, I think we peeled 90 pounds of potatoes today, and 30 or 40 pounds of sweet potatoes. So please come down. And if you'd like to help out at all, there's always lots of jobs, and there's a lot of seniors there, 200 to 300 at least people. And they love talking to you. And you can get a free cactus. And also come for a tour at Reflections. We've got that open, and a lot of people haven't been in there. So it's good.
Well, thanks again for your presentation. A great organization, continuing to add other great events to our town. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you again. Moving on to bylaws and policies. GM Hawken is going to present the draft council committee bylaw number 2320. GM Hawken.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty. Good evening, Council. Tonight I'm walking you through the draft council committee bylaw. The goal is to simplify, clarify, and make everything consistent across the organization. So if you have any questions on a particular slide, please cue your mic and I'd be happy to answer it in real time, as we're going to be going through this for the first time. So background. Over the past year, admin has reviewed all the council established board and committees, including their bylaws, terms of reference, how we recruit and appoint public members. This bylaw creates one framework that brings everything back into alignment, supports modern and consistent practices across all council-created advisory committees with public membership. And the reason I'm emphasizing council-created advisory committees with public membership, because we have a lot of council committees, but as you see tonight, there's only 3 that are part of this bylaw, and I'll explain why later. So the purpose of the new bylaw. The goal here is to create one overarching structure for our committees that include the public members. It lets us modernize our expectations for recruitment, onboarding, reporting, and meeting management. It also gives the public and council clarity about what each committee does, how members are selected, and how the committee fits into the town's governance structure. Ultimately, it strengthens our confidence in our processes, and it's going to ensure consistent governance no matter which committee we're talking about that falls underneath this bylaw. So, council committees established under this bylaw. As you can see, there's only 3. FCSS Advisory Board, the Municipal Policing Committee, and the Town of Edson Youth Council. There are 3 that came to mind of what people will have questions about, but I'll also go through all of them to explain why every other council committee that you have under your glass in front of you is not part of this bylaw. So, the 3 that are on there, the Intermunicipal Subdivision and Development Appeal Board, as well as the Regional Assessment Review Board, these are legislative quasi-judicial bodies under the Municipal Government Act. So because, when I say MGA, I mean Municipal Government Act. Because the MGA prescribes their composition, their authority, their procedures, their admin structure, they have to operate under their own dedicated bylaws in order to meet those statutory requirements. This bylaw that we are talking about tonight is designed for advisory and non-judicial bodies, so including the Intermunicipal Subdivision Development Appeal Board and the Regional Assessment Review Board would conflict with legislation with why we are drafting the Council Advisory Committee bylaw tonight. I know it's not called the Advisory Committee bylaw, but that word is important to differentiate between the two. And the library board. So the library board is a governing body, not an advisory committee. So even though it's established by municipal bylaw, by council, it operates underneath the Libraries Act with its own independent powers, its budget authority, and governance responsibilities. It functions like a standalone corporation. It makes decisions, it manages funds, it manages assets, and it has statutory responsibilities that council cannot override. Because of that, it is not grouped underneath this advisory committee framework. So FCSS Advisory Board, in contrast, this one is not a governing body. That's why it is included in this one. It's a council-appointed advisory committee created underneath the FCSS regulation, but it is overseen by the municipality and by council. The role of the FCSS Advisory Board is to provide advice and recommendations to council, so therefore this fits cleanly underneath this structure that we are talking about tonight. All the other committees that are listed in front of you on the glass are not included because they were either created by an external organization, so it was not created by council. They are an internal committee with no public membership, or it's an intermunicipal committee. So therefore, that's why every other committee that you have in front of you, there's 25 of them, they fall underneath those three categories, which is why they are not underneath the council committee bylaw we were talking about tonight. So key governance improvements. First, everything's centralized. So instead of several separate, or I guess it would be 3 separate bylaws with different processes, everything now lives in one place with the terms of reference moved to the schedules of this bylaw for transparency. Second, the admin roles are clearly defined. Every committee has a direct administrative liaison with responsibilities for agendas, minutes, onboarding, and records management. And third, the public member recruitment becomes standardized. It was already standardized in practice. This is just us formalizing it on paper to make it to show the interview process, the scoring matrix, and to make it consistent with advertising to make sure it's fair and defensible to the public. Recruitment and appointment model. So I laid out, this is taken exactly from the bylaw itself. So this outlines the recruitment process. The legislative officer will lead the recruitment interviews with support from the admin liaison, the committee chair, and the assigned counselor that is dedicated to that committee. Advertising will run for a minimum of 2 weeks, and it can be ran through the website, social media, or the newspaper. After interviews, council will appoint the members at the organizational meeting as they always do year over year, and this is based on those interview results. This takes the guesswork out of appointments and it'll provide council with well-supported recommendations. Moving forward with this model. So why this model? It's fair, consistent, transparent for applicants. It's also our current practice and how we did it this year. It keeps council at the governance level while assigning the operational parts to administration.
Sorry, GM Hawken, can I interrupt for a minute? Councillor Pisichny has a question for you.
Yeah, through the Heritage, GM Hawkins, can you go back well, you thought one ahead of me. The question I have is on our advertising. So you have town events and website, you have social media and or newspaper, but you don't, have you thought about out-of-home advertising on that? There is other avenues that you can advertise that is not listed there. So my fear is with the bylaws that it's just too restrictive on the advertising side of things, but I just wasn't sure if you put much thought into it or if that's just suggestions or ideas and you can still do other things.
Through the chair to Councillor Pisichny, this is to answer your question of how much thought we put into it, we use the basic model of how we do majority of our advertising. Administration is open to any suggestions. If there are other avenues that council would like to advertise, that's the point of the committee tonight, to get this feedback, and we can build this into the bylaw if it's the wish of council when we bring it back to council for first reading.
Councillor Pisichny. Your mic is on.
Was I still queued up?
You were still queued up.
Oh, sorry.
You were re-queued up. That's okay. We'll move on to Mayor Zahara. You have a question.
Thank you. Just thank you, Mr. Chair, through to GM Hawken. I think that Councillor Pisichny does bring up a good point. Maybe a bullet in there or in other means of advertising, because you may have things like community registration, which would be a perfect way to advertise and try to get recruitment. You may have radio, which still reaches the area. You may have billboards or other things that might be doable, utility inserts, that sort of thing. Just the way that it's worded right now, will be advertised for a minimum. It kind of does make it a little restrictive depending on how you interpret that. So I think there's some opportunity there to give you some flexibility depending on the committee and the uptake. Because obviously, I know that our municipality and other municipalities in the region are struggling to get volunteer members to join these types of committees. So we should try to expand and look at other means of getting the word out to the community.
GM Hawken, if you'd like to continue.
Thank you. That's good feedback. We can definitely incorporate that. That makes complete sense. So, meeting management enhancements. So, all committees will use iCompass for agendas, minutes, once training is complete with the admin liaisons, as well as their alternates. So this supports consistency across committees, ensures proper records management, and gives the public clear access to information. It also reduces the risk and brings everything in line with existing town standards. So there will be the ability through iCompass where people can see the calendar for council meetings. They'll also be able to see the calendar for committee meetings.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the chair to GM Hawkins. How does that work with publics at large? Like as council, we're provided with a tablet device to use. Would it then be up to our publics at large or others to use their own tablets or their own devices? Do they have a separate login, or is it the same as council's device?
Through the chair to Councillor Pisichny, are you talking in regards to them accessing information for the meeting itself?
Yeah, through the chair to GM Hawkins. I guess what I'm getting at is if we, for example, we have a youth council, there's 12, 13 members, and they're young, they have devices, but we're not providing them with an electronic tablet. So then we'd be asking them to use an electronic tablet. That doesn't necessarily mean they have one, or because currently right now we just use paper documents. And I'm sure other communities are using paper documents as well. I'm not against the electronic side. I just wonder if there's a way if we looked at that, or is this just meaning that when council sits on the committees, they'll have their access on iCompass there?
Through the chair to Councillor Pisichny. So the way that the committees will actually work isn't going to change. It's going to be going through paper, they're going to get paper copies. They can still get the information to do the meeting. The difference is that it will be publicly known when the meetings are, and then the admin liaison can record the minutes through iCompass, but the actual needing a tablet to do the meeting or versus using paper, that part isn't going to change. That will stay with whatever's best for that committee and the committee members that are on that board.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you for clarifying that, because when I see iCompass, I just think of strictly just my iPad and the fact that my agenda and my meetings are on here and I don't get a paper agenda for council. So I was thinking that our committees were going to go that way. I didn't think about the fact that iCompass loads it to the website and does other things as well. So thank you for clarifying that.
All right, GM Hawken, if you'd like to continue.
Yes, sir. So next is going through this is the terms of reference as part of the bylaw. So the first one is Schedule A, FCSS Advisory Board. So the purpose of this is to advise council on preventative social services, program needs, and community well-being issues. The membership is up to 7 voting members, 1 councillor alternate, up to 6 public members, and then there is an admin liaison who is the community services manager. They are non-voting. The eligibility is residents of Edson or Yellowhead County. Quorum is 50% plus 1 voting members that are present. And meeting frequency is minimum of 4 meetings per year.
Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to administration, was there any thought on putting, when we talk Edson or Yellowhead County membership, is there any thought put onto so many counties, so many towns, like a minimum of 2 town, 2 county? Or, because we do run the risk of potentially only have town representation, or the flip side, only county representation. So just wonder if there's any thought process put into that.
Thank you, Councillor Schramm. At this time, we were just representing what is currently happening. So if council would like to make it more restrictive, might not be the correct word, but more prescriptive, that's the correct word. More prescriptive about the amount of residents in either Edson or Yellowhead County, that is your prerogative. I'd be looking to get feedback tonight, and if that is the wish of the group, we can build that into the bylaw.
Thank you. GM Hawken, I'll let you continue.
No other questions on FC? Oh, yeah.
Councillor Psitchny.
Yeah, through the chair, maybe further to Councillor Schramm. I don't mind the idea of having like minimum 2 of each. The only fear I would have in that would be we'd have, we need 2 members of town, 2 members of county, and then we can't get members. But yet we have people waiting to get on that committee. So I do like the idea of the diversity of having it with a lot of our committees, but I would hate to tie the hands to say, you got to have 2 county reps and then nobody in the county wants to do it, or vice versa.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the chair to administration, and contrary to Councillor Psitchny, I would actually kind of go the other way and look at prescribing, if possible, and this could be put if possible, a majority of Edson residents. There is an FCSS board for Yellowhead County already. I don't know if Town of Edson residents are permitted to be on that particular board. But the focus really should be, we're talking about Town of Edson. Yes, Yellowhead County does provide FCSS funding. I can't remember the percentage at the top of my head, but it's still the Town of Edson prescribes a majority funding. And I would like to see sort of majority Town of Edson residents. Again, I hear Councillor Psitchny's point in terms of who applies and how many apply, but I think it could be, we're talking about Town of Edson events. Town of Edson members should have sort of more of a say.
CAO Beveridge.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So I can speak to the recruitment of these boards and committees over my tenure in this organization. I would say that we have never had an oversubscription to the volunteer positions. I've loved that it was not the case, but we've always had a challenge. So there's that. Also, when we're speaking about making changes to the memberships, we do have the existing boards that have already been appointed. This would be a future discussion, I believe, when we're talking about these types of changes, and only because we've already appointed our members for 2026. Noting that through this process, and GM Hawken will get to this, the terms of reference do come back on an annual basis for council's approval. So if we know that that is something that council wishes us to consider for more of a different approach to membership on our boards and committees, we can most certainly explore that and have that in consideration for the 2027 boards.
Thank you. Mayor Zahara.
Thank you very much for this discussion. Just reviewing the current FCSS bylaw, I'm actually quite surprised we don't have, a mandatory amount of town representation versus county representation. Being a Town of Edson board, it should be, membership should be majority town residents. 50% plus 1, as it is a Town of Edson FCSS advisory board. I do believe the county residents should have representation there as well, as they are a major funder towards our FCSS program, unlike in the county where we don't fund county programs. So that's why we don't have representation there. But so when it does come back, when the terms of reference for that committee does come back, I do believe that we should have that as a stipulation that at least half of the board has to be Town of Edson representation.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions right now, GM Hawken, if you'd like to continue.
Yes, sir, thank you. On this point, would council, instead of being as prescriptive as majority members should be from Edson, what about the approach of preference will be given to people from Edson? And then that way you're not handcuffed in the instance where we don't have enough public members from Edson applying.
Mayor Zahara.
I would have to disagree with that. The town of Edson, this is a town of Edson program. As such, town of Edson should have majority voting rights on the board. It's not for another jurisdiction to decide programming within the town of Edson.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the chair to administration, I agree with Mayor Zahara. I think it would be not very prudent if basically the whole committee or board was all Yellowhead County residents making recommendations to Town of Edson Council. I think that's a little backwards. So a majority of Town of Edson residents should be on FCSS.
Councillor Pizzicini.
Yeah, through the chair to administration council, my earlier statement wasn't meaning that handcuffing. I didn't want to say that we had to have 2 county representatives because we couldn't get them, then we would be handcuffed. I don't disagree with the majority of them being Edson residents, as it is a town committee. So maybe I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions right now, GM Hawken. Would you like to continue?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'll move on to the Municipal Policing Committee. So this committee is connecting council, RCMP, and the community. It supports local policing priorities as required under the Police Amendment Act. Currently, it has 3 to 7 voting members. So there's 2 councillors and 3 to 5 public members. The administrative liaison is the Enforcement Services Manager, non-voting. And there are additional non-voting participants, the officer in charge, the CAO, the GM of that department, a youth rep, county observer, and the provincial appointee as applicable. Eligibility, public members must complete an oath of office and enhanced security check. This is legislated, and they must be residents of Edson. The quorum, if you notice, it's not just a simple majority here. It is minimum of 1 councillor and simple majority of public members. The reason administration is recommending a minimum of 1 councillor, 2 reasons. There are 2 councillors on this board at all times. It's not 1 and an alternate. And also it's a brand new committee. So administration thinks there would be value in ensuring that there is always a councillor there in order to have quorum so they can report back of how this new committee is working to help the community and to help push forward the policing initiatives. And the meeting frequency is a meeting of 4 meetings per year. Any questions on this terms of reference?
Councillor Taylor.
Through the chair to administration, how did you come up with 4 meetings a year? And the reason why I asked this question is Councillor Schramm and I do sit on the Municipal Police Committee. We're really looking forward to that first meeting. I think it's going to be in the new year and how it's going to progress. I know that I'm struggling as to what I hear the role of it, but what we're going to be doing at each meeting. I know there's been some, even in the talk of creating the bylaw during the past council term, what the committee will be doing. So I would hate to see if it's like a minimum of 4 meetings a year and there's not much to be done. So just wondering if there was a rationale behind, 4 meetings and just, the rationale behind it.
Through the chair to Councillor Taylor, the rationale is for a new committee, this is standardized quarterly meetings. There's really no rhyme or reason. We don't know how much you're going to need to talk about. We don't know how little. So we went with a standard quarterly meeting.
Councillor Pizzicini.
Yeah, through the chair to administration. Quarterly meetings, I see where Councillor Taylor's coming with this one. This is just setting a minimum. Is there, with the new, because there's new legislation on this, are we forced to meet at 4 meetings, or could you say a minimum of 1 meeting per year or 2 meetings per year? And if you needed 4, then you could go to 4. I'd hate to say we're required to do 4, so we're getting together to have a meeting, to say we had a meeting to hit our minimum. So if we don't need to have 4, there's nothing worse than having a meeting for the sake of having a meeting.
Thank you for the question. I will look up if it is I'll pass it to Councillor Beveridge, or CAO Beveridge, sorry.
Thank you, Jim Hawken. Through to council, just reviewing the bylaw, in 5.7, hold quarterly meetings at a minimum, but as often as required to carry out the business of the committee. So that was approved within the Municipal Policing Committee when this was presented and approved by council. So that's what we're following here. And I hear your challenges with the Municipal Policing Committee. We're trying to get another member, and we will have something set up for you very shortly. I assure you there will be something coming very soon.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the chair to administration, because this future bylaw will then, I guess, supersede or the other bylaws would FCSS, Municipal Police Committee, they would then dissolve those bylaws, correct? I would then even fall to 2 or 3 meetings minimum per year, and then as necessary. If we need more, then you can have more. I would just hate to see that bar be set high. Not like, I know I sit on the committee and I'm not advocating for like less meetings or anything, but I also look at the staff time that it takes to create agendas and packages and the work that has to go into it. And it's for a 15-minute meeting. That's not a good use of our staff time to create that.
Mayor Zahara.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So, let's be frank here. The only reason we have this committee is to satisfy a provincial government that is set on creating more bureaucracy instead of less. So I think that, we are setting this up. I think it's important that the committee meets if we are going to have a committee. But I don't think 4 meetings a year, there's going to be enough things to talk about for 4 meetings a year. Maybe there will be. So I would definitely like that minimum maybe brought down to 2 meetings per year. And that way we're not creating meetings to create meetings and content for meetings. Obviously, our staff sergeant's going to be greatly involved with this. And I'd rather have him focus on actually fighting crime in the community than talking about crime in the community. So that's my thoughts.
No more questions right now. GM Hawken, you can continue.
Thank you, sir. I will double check to ensure that it's not legislated that we have to meet for. If not, we definitely can incorporate dropping the minimum amount for this committee. Last, Youth Council. So the purpose is for youth perspectives to come back to council to develop our youth leadership and support youth engagement in municipal processes. So the current membership is up to 12 youth councillors, grades 9 to 12, Edson or Yellowhead County residents, 2 councillors, 1 councillor alternate. That alternate is non-voting unless they're replacing one of the 2 councillors that cannot make the meeting. And the administrative liaison is the community development coordinator, again, non-voting. The eligibility is the youth must live in either Edson or Yellowhead County, and they must either attend school in Edson or be homeschooled in Edson or Yellowhead County. Quorum, 1 councillor and a simple majority of youth councillors. Again, this is not just a simple majority. We think there's value in having at least 1 councillor there to establish quorum with our youth councillors. And the meeting frequency is matching what is currently happening, which is monthly meetings from November to September, and any additional meetings can be added as needed for events or projects. Please let me know if you have questions.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the deputy mayor to administration. So real quick, I want to just go with the overall scope of the bylaw. The top of the bylaw, we have sort of the setup of the 3 different boards and committees that we have. I think within it, it says, within the top section, it says you need to have a chair, you need to have a vice chair, and they're appointed to, I believe, 3-year terms. And that is supposed to apply to all 3 committees, or is there a section within the schedule that overrides that? The reason why is because youth council chooses a new chair every meeting, so everybody gets a chair. They're not 3-year terms, they're 1-year terms.
Okay.
They don't meet monthly. They don't meet in July and August. They'll meet, and the other challenge is, once you hit September, all the grads, the ones that graduate, will no longer be there. They'll be, I assume, in the city, and they may still be able to come back, but there's a challenge. Typically in the past, and this year is new, The youth council has their first meeting, has usually had their first meeting in October, right? This year was the very first year that we had them appointed within our organizational meeting. And then they had their first meeting in November. So, and we can stick with that, that's fine. You will lose a month of their time and that sort of thing, and it gives them 1 month less to proceed with the project they want to work on. So there's a challenge to that, and I don't know how to undo that, but certainly there are things within this committee or board, the youth council, that is certainly different than the other two. Okay. One other thing I do have to consider, you have to consider as well, and I didn't consider this until I saw this in the bylaw, and you had put earlier that the minutes and information agendas will be posted publicly. Well, now we're dealing with youth and youth names. I don't know if we have parental consent. I'll say this, we may have, my son sits on youth council, and I don't know whether I filled anything out the very first time that he joined youth council, but I didn't fill anything out this time. I know he applied, it was sent in, and it was all done. If we're posting youth names up on websites, then you're probably going to need additional paperwork to administration that we need parental consent for photos, for names that are going to be put publicly. And then what are the conditions are if a parent or guardian says they don't give consent? Because are we saying then that student then can't, or that youth can't be on youth council? So those are some additional things. Youth council is very different than the other two in the structure and how it has been structured in the past. I don't know, I just give you all that information in terms of how you're gonna rework that bylaw so it still makes sense, whether you have a clause in there if youth council is, or one of the committees has different structure, then they have to follow that structure. I don't know, but I have to throw that all out there because it is different.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Jim Hawken?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty. Okay, let's summarize. So, yes, we can build in for the chair and the term. We can build in within the specific schedule that it is outside of. So the way the bylaw is created is to create standardized processes. However, the whole point of having a terms of reference is to recognize that they're individual committees and they may have individual preferences. So we can build in the. You said the chair was a 1 year or every meeting? Every meeting. Every meeting, okay. Okay, we can do that. You said no meetings in July and August? Okay.
And possibly September as well, depending on how we see whether we do want the flooding of the previous group to meet in September. Typically in the past, their June meeting has been their last meeting. The mayor attends, we provide like certificates for completion, those types of things, so.
Okay, that makes complete sense. We can build that into the bylaw, and then that additional clause of additional meetings can be added if needed. That will cover that piece. I believe you said one more thing before the parental consent. Was there another?
Oh, gosh. Probably, I rambled. It was 1 year term? Did we have the 1 year term in that? Yeah. I can't remember what I said. It's all in this, but it's there. All right.
Perfect. Last one, parental consent. So it's a public committee. So the public has the ability to attend these meetings like any other advisory committee. So yes, while I will look into the legal parameters of parental consent, my initial reaction is that if the youth is on a public committee, therefore their name can be in public minutes. However, I will get a legal opinion on that before bringing it back for official council decision.
Councillor Pisichny.
Yeah, through the chair to GM Huggins. We also generally don't vote as the councillors that sit on the board. We let the youth do the voting. So we're just more the representatives of the council. So it's their council, not our council. So they do the voting, not us. So if you could remove that, we'd be non-voters.
CAO Beveridge.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. 40. Just with regards to the appointment, I know this was brought up this past October, and understandably, the concerns were raised with regards to the lack of ability for the students to start in September. There's no reason why we couldn't do the appointment in September. We would just bump that a month up. It doesn't need to always follow the rest of the appointments, but we can make an exception and do an appointment for youth council, so then you can get started earlier and allow for the full school year.
Councillor Schramm.
Yep, through the chair to administration, not so much youth council, but relating to the other two committees. Was there been any consideration to stagger that membership? So we're not trying to recruit 6 for the FCSS and 6 for the police all at the same time? Is there, like say, a thought to stagger or not? So basically one will serve a 3-year term, one will serve a 2-year term. I don't know, it's just a thought.
GM Hawken.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, that is a practice that municipalities do to ensure they don't have to do a full recruitment. So that is I will bring back an option for when it comes back to council, if council would like to move in that direction. However, the way that it naturally has happened with recruitment, we don't have, from my understanding, we don't have a large turnover once every year. It has kind of naturally happened with either people leaving or needing new members or now. But the municipal policing committee, since it's a brand new one, I could definitely see how staggering it would have an advantage. So I can bring that option back to council next time we bring it.
Seeing no more questions right now, GM Hawken, do you want to continue presentation?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Moving on, it's next steps. So, council, you've provided the feedback tonight. Thank you very much. Administration will incorporate the revisions to put into the bylaw. Based on the feedback tonight, and after we go for questions, if there's more feedback. But based on the feedback tonight, I'm confident that we can build this into a closer to finalized bylaw to bring back to a future council meeting for at least first reading. And then following adoption, admin will continue to work on updating all our other committee-related bylaws. So like the library bylaw and the assessment review board, we just wanted to ensure council that review of those other committee bylaws are still going to come forward in the upcoming year. So, questions and discussion. This is your time to provide any extra feedback that you haven't already. Are the governance structures clear and appropriate? Do you support the recruitment and appointment model? We've talked about the terms of reference, and then any other changes that you'd like to bring before we bring it back to council.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the deputy mayor to administration and all of council, I first off, I appreciate that we're sort of putting now sort of on paper how we're selecting people that are applying to the boards and committees. I sat in on the interview processes for the library board and the SSS board. It's sort of a new way of doing it. It offered great discussion, right, of how what we do in the boards and committees. It allowed the applicant to understand that. Some people are applying to the library board saying, well, I just want to volunteer at the library. I want to read with maybe seniors. But that's not what the library board does. The library board is a governance board. So I know the library board's separate to that, but FCSS, having that understanding of what FCSS does, I think having those discussions with the applicants is important to know what they're getting into, especially if it's going to be a 3-year term. They want to know what they're getting themselves into. My recommendation, other than what I said previously, sort of specifically with the youth council, is feel free to send this document to at least the 2 boards and committees that are already up and running. That's FCSS and Youth Council. Those individuals have been sitting on these boards and committees for some of them for quite some time. They can offer feedback of things they like, things that we may have missed, and not all members of council are familiar with these boards and committees. Even administration may not be familiar completely with what goes on, but those members are. So asking for their feedback is important.
Mayor Zahara.
Thank you. Just through the chair to GM Hawken and maybe to members of council. Just on the youth council, I know that historically what we've tried to do with youth council membership is ensuring there's a diverse between schools, between genders, between backgrounds, so we don't end up with just all the sports kids ending up on youth council, right? We want a diverse group of youth represented at that meeting. So I don't know if we need a provision within the terms of reference from the youth council that membership will be selected will be a diverse group of people from that age group. We don't want it to turn into it's just one school represented or one group of people on that committee, and it may not be clear as it's outlined right now in the current documents.
Any other questions? Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to administration, again, I've kind of taken quite a bit of time to read this bylaw, so it's quite well done. Just a question under the main bylaw, talks about ad hoc committees and that, and you've got ad hoc committees have to be approved by council. Typically, an ad hoc committee is something that takes on, correct me if I'm wrong, something a little more specific for the committee to kind of research and do, and I'm just not sure if council needs to approve that. I think the committee should have that ability to create their own ad hoc committees, because the ad hoc committee is going to report back to the committee, which is going to report to council. I don't think council has to have that authority to appoint the ad hoc committee. I think that can rest with the committee itself. That's my thoughts.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the deputy mayor to council administration. Great point, Councillor Schramm. I do like that point. There's lots of subcommittees within these committees that just report back to the main committee. And Mayor Zahara just sort of came up with again with the youth council. Having that interview process, important for FCSS, important for Municipal Policing Commission. There will be a major task if we wish to go down an interview process for youth council. For youth council, we have 15 or 16 applicants. That is a lot of interviews to end up doing. Not insurmountable, but it's going to take a lot of time from the two councillors that sit on that board or committee, as well as staff as well. Not saying it's insurmountable, whether there's another option. Again, the ones that have already served on the committee have perhaps done their 1 year interview already. Maybe we only have to interview the new members that wish to join, right? Or the new applicants. Something to consider, or else you could be sitting for weeks going through an interview process to get your final 12.
Any other council questions? Councillor Holden.
Yes, through the chair to administration. We spoke earlier, one of the councillors did about, on the FCS board about having a majority of town members on it so that it's representative of the town. Is there any consideration in youth council of limiting how many Yellowhead County youth counselors are on it versus the Edson counselors? Give it a little more structure and at-home kind of thing?
Mayor Zahara.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Holden. Generally speaking, since Youth Council has been formed, it's always has been mostly town representation. We actually had 1 year, I think we had more than county versus town, and we made sure that the town had more representation than the county. So I think that's also a good point on the Youth Council one. I think there's some details there that might be missing under that terms of reference, because we do want to ensure that this is a Town of Edson committee. It's not a Yellowhead County committee. And in this one particular, we just invite those Yellowhead County students to participate. So,
any other questions or comments? All right, I'll just add a couple of comments myself then. If anyone thinks of any, they can buzz in here. I think we want to be careful that we don't get too restrictive on the youth council, where we tie our hands to so many have to be county and so many have to be Edson, or so many have to be from one school or the other, because depending on the year, we might find students who are more from Parkland than from Holy Redeemer, or vice versa. And if we restrict it, that it has to be, I think the selection committee can do a lot of that choice with these things in mind, rather than tying our hands to having, we have to have so many students from so many different backgrounds or so on, because when we have youth who want to be involved, we definitely don't want to restrict who we can take based on something that we've written down that has tied our hands to something. So that's just my quick thought on that. Councillor Basicny.
Yes, through the chair, to the chair. I agree with the statement. For sure that I don't think we need to put restrictions on it. As partaking in the selection committee, a couple of times we do look for that balance when we're selecting. And let's be honest, the youth in the community don't really see municipal boundaries like we do. So,
Do we have any other questions on this draft council committee bylaw? GM Hawken.
On that point, thank you for bringing that up, because I was literally just about to say the selection committee can come from it with that lens of prioritizing Edson residents without having to tie our hands. Is that an approach that council would be comfortable with as well then with the other boards, or do we still want to be prescriptive with outlining that we want majority to be Edson residents?
Mayor Zahara.
I would have to disagree with Councillor Pisichny on Youth Council. Youth Council has the ability to influence decisions around this table. And it's Town of Edson resources that go to supporting Youth Council. So at least 50% need to be Town of Edson residents. So that's point number one. Point number two, and don't confuse what I said earlier, that we need to have X amount from each school. I'm just saying that the committee has to be, whoever's selecting the committee has to have that diverse view. And while some of us around this table have been a part of that process, we may not be here for the next process. So we got to make sure that we are consistent with how those members are selected. And if we're going to start making committees with more residents from another municipality, then why are we the ones having that committee set up? It's the Town of Edson Youth Council. It should have majority Town of Edson youth on it.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the Deputy Mayor to GM Hawkins, to answer your question, FCSS, no matter what, needs to have a majority Town of Edson and needs to place that in there. It's tough. I do understand the point that Councillor Pisichny has made, and certainly Mayor Zahara has made the counterpoint to that. If I had to choose one, again, this is our youth council is the Town of Edson committee. It's Town of Edson staff and resources that are going into it. So at that point, we probably need to have a majority of Town of Edson residents sit on that committee. It just makes sense. Again, other municipalities can create their own youth council if they so wish.
Councillor Pisichny.
yeah, thank you through the chair to the mayor and council. I do agree with that it should be a majority, and it always has been a majority. And when you're in the selection committee, sometimes you have more people that have applied than there are spots. And generally, your deciding factors comes down to a deciding factor can be which school they're at. A deciding factor can be which community they belong in. So I'm not against a minimum for Edson. We've always maintained that the majority of the council is within the municipal. Having the outside perspective of our neighboring community youth as well has been beneficial. But I guess maybe the question should be is if we're going to set a minimum, then a number has to be put out. So if the mayor wants to make a statement and say, okay, I want of the 12, then say it's going to be 8 or 9 or 12, because we're not really giving GM Hawkins clear direction on this. So I'm okay with it, with setting a minimum, but let's discuss the minimum then, because if we're going to put a minimum there, we can't send our administration back without having an actual minimum.
Mayor Zahara.
I think it's quite clear if there's 12 members, then 7's the majority.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the Deputy Mayor, 50% plus one.
Any other questions or comments on GM Hawkins' presentation? Seeing none, I will thank GM Hawkins for his and all of the administration's work on this and taking our feedback, and appreciate Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will move on to our CFO, McDonald, who is going to policy review reserve policy FB4. Thank you, CFO McDonald.
Merry Christmas, Mayor and Council and Deputy Mayor. Before you is the reserve policy. The background on this is that the current reserve policy, FB4, was adopted in 2024 and is currently scheduled for review October 2025. This policy provides a framework for establishing and managing reserves to ensure financial stability. Reserves are categorized for specific purposes and require council approval for creation and use. Transfers to and from reserves are managed through the annual budget process and/or through year-end surplus allocation from council. The policy ensures transparency, accountability, alignment with the MGA requirements. The performance of the policy to date, the reserve policy provides guidance to council and administration on the goals and objectives for long-term stability. The policy has been working well and continues to meet its objectives. The purpose, we are proposing 2 new reserves dedicated to municipal facilities, the operating reserve for ongoing building maintenance and operational needs, and a capital reserve for major facility upgrades and future municipal facility capital work. The benefits of the new reserve will be, we will begin to provide a structured funding for anticipated facility work owned by the municipality, and we will initiate the creation of dedicated funds to support that long-term financial stability for municipal facilities. Otherwise, there has been relatively no changes to the policy, and looking for your feedback and input on how to move forward with the policy.
Thank you, CFO McDonald. Any questions from council? Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, to the Chair of Administration, not so much a question, more of a comment. Long overdue. It's great to see that our facilities are going to be addressed. We have multiple facilities in our community, and it's great to see that we're going to put some reserves for the operations and the capital aside. I think it's long overdue, so well done.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
To the Deputy Mayor, to administration, I echo Councillor Schramm's comments there. You'll see in our budget for 2026, we're spending a bit of money on our facilities that we have. Now we need to start putting money aside, looking at appropriate maintenance. We have a multiplex that's going to be completed within the next few years here, and we want enough funds in there to continually maintain it, so it elongates the life of that facility and all the others. So these are great additions to the reserve policy.
Any further questions or comments? All right, seeing none, thank you, CFO McDonald, appreciate it. And thanks again to administration for your work on this. We will move on to our business items. Next is the water exploration update from Darren Biosco, our Fleet and Utilities Manager. Thank you. Welcome. If you could just key up your mic there.
Thank you for the opportunity to present on the progress of the groundwater supply investigations. My name is Ken Summerstad. I'm a senior hydrogeologist and project manager with Worley Consulting. I'm based out of Edmonton, Alberta. I've been working with the town to drive water supply investigation and sustainably source water into the future for the past roughly 6 years. With me today, I'm joined by my colleague Trevor Butterfield, the principal hydrogeologist and the current senior reviewer of all of our town events and work. In this presentation, we'll be going through an overview of the town's project, or the town's water supply demands, then provide a brief summary of the town's current licensing arrangement with Alberta Environment. We will then briefly touch on the groundwater model prepared for the town, which drove the decisions and work executed over the past 2 years. From there, we will get into the review of the tasks that we've completed in the last 2 years, the results, and path forward. As we walk through this presentation, please do not hesitate to ask questions throughout. Now, the town has been utilizing groundwater since the 1950s. At this time, the population of the town was only of approximately 2,000 people. Population has steadily grown since and is proceeded to exceed 10,000 people in the next 10 years. That, combined with the influx of people staying in town for work, the current demand for the town is roughly 1.5 million cubes per year. To accommodate that demand, historically the town had actually numerous Water Act licenses that allowed them to draw from various wells throughout the area. Each of these licenses had differing terms, conditions, which made it difficult to manage for the town. Additionally, getting a new license was nearly impossible. The priority for the town could not increase. They would not give us a new one. So in 2021, we worked with Alberta Environment and the town to amalgamate those licenses into a single license. That license standardized the terms and conditions, but more importantly, defined an area and an aquifer system that the town was able to draw from. It also provided an avenue for the town to add and remove wells through a streamlined amendment process. Diving into a little bit more of the details of that area and the aquifer system, I'm going to give a brief overview of the Paskapoo Formation and the aquifer management area. The amalgamated licenses allowed the town to pull water from the Paskapoo Formation and the Edson Channel aquifer. The Paskapoo is a Paleocene-aged formation that is a mix of sandstones, siltstones, and mudstones. It represents an ancient braided river system, making it a major groundwater source in the area. As we see on this picture, this image here, the star is the town of Edson. The large yellow area, that is the Paskapoo Formation, so it is regionally extensive. The Edson Channel aquifer is a more localized surficial deposit. It has been determined to be in hydraulic connection with the Paskapoo Formation. It's a buried sand and gravel channel that trends west-southwest to east-northeast through the town. You can see on the image here, it basically just runs just to the southern edge of the town and produces quite a bit of water. Now, we've mentioned the Aquifer Management Area, or AMA, a few times already. Here we see it on a regional map. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but there's a black outline there kind of surrounding the town. This opens up a larger area that the town is able to explore than they previously were able to. This area is also now open from basically surface all the way down to about 450 meters below ground surface. So a large network that you could actually potentially tap into here. What the challenge then becomes is what area produces and what depth produces the chemistry that you need, the volumes that you need. And then to extend on that, where does that fit in with the town's existing infrastructure? Things like pipelines, sewers, treatment capabilities. Layered over the top of that is what land does the town actually own in that area? So now that we've set the framework, the regulatory framework and the formation that the town is able to explore, the next step that occurred back in 2023 was a groundwater sustainability model was prepared. A quick summary of this is we wanted to evaluate, now that you have this nice big area and this aquifer that you can produce from, can it sustainably support the town for generations to come? So we looked at data up to 20 years ahead and found that 3 things. Number 1, the Paskapoo can sustainably support the town. Number 2, The current configuration of the network is not capable of producing. What that means is the town needs more wells. Number 3 is that it's not just installing more wells on top of your wells. It is spatially distributing the wells throughout the aquifer management area. Now, this sustainability model has guided the recent work related to water supply investigation, groundwater exploration for the town. So, in the past, the town has driven exploration purely based on the land available to the town. This has led to the aquifer system not being thoroughly investigated, meaning the collection of data relevant to understanding aquifer properties and properties related to sustainability have not been prioritized or gathered. So following this study, everything shifted. We are now doing a data-driven approach, driving the things forward into the future. So since this modeling, we've done 3 investigations. The first, well 29, the second, well 30, and finally, well 31. In the following slides here, we'll just kind of walk through what we found, what we did, and what we found. So the first location, well 29, was actually the result of an Alberta Environment Mandate. Despite the fact that well 25 has been utilized by the town for several decades with no issues, Alberta Environment deemed it not suitable for use due to a lack of documentation related to a well seal. As a result, we had to abandon well 25 and replace it with well 29. Now, since well 29, since the amalgamation, we were allowed to explore to the base of the Passagoo, as previously mentioned, around 450 meters deep. Therefore, because we were drilling a well, we just decided let's explore a little bit deeper. We went to just under 150 meters below ground surface. This is the first time in the town's history that the borehole was properly logged by professionals and downhole geophysical data was collected. Based on that collected data, a monitoring or a groundwater well was installed 77 to 119 meters below ground surface. And as this interval indicated, higher fractures, which could potentially mean higher yield. Unfortunately, the well yield was limited, and unexpectedly, fluoride concentrations at well 29 were 13 times what we saw at well 25, well over the guideline. Therefore, to bring this well online, additional costs would be required to bring in sewer, conduct some treatment, or alternatively pipe it away to some other treatment facility. Since the well was not overly, had a low yield, we just elected to put that one on hold. Okay. The next site that we investigated was well 30. This well was actually previously installed by the town back in 2018. Historical results from that well indicated that it has quite a high yield and that the chemistry was pretty good. So we did additional testing with the aim of adding it to the license. The testing commenced in August 2024. Our results indicated that that well had high yield, comparable to, like, high enough yield that it's comparable to the town's highest producers out there. Everything was looking good, but unfortunately, bacteriological data came back with high aggressive levels of iron-related bacteria. An attempt was made to shock chlorinate this well to remove that. However, the concentrations were steady following the treatment. I just wanted to note on this that there is no guideline for iron-related bacteria. However, bacteria may reduce well yield and potentially cause discoloration or odors. Now, the results were on the low side of the aggressive range, and shock chlorination did not work. However, there are reference documents out there that cite it could take 2 or 3 shock chlorinations before it actually is successful. The most recent exploration, this was our first real attempt at true exploration since 2023. With our previous attempts, we were always looking to leverage existing infrastructure to minimize cost. In this particular case, a location was selected through discussion with the town. Those locations were based off of that modeling, cross-referenced to available town land. From 2 potential locations, one was selected within the subdivision of Hillendale. Similar to well 29, we investigated deeper. We collected the downhole geophysics. It was professionally logged. Learning from our experience with well 29, we, prior to installing a well, this time we conducted Packer tests. Packer tests are tests that we can do on an open borehole that isolate intervals, specific depth intervals, and allow us to test it. We can get chemistry and limited yield results from those intervals. What we found with this well was that, or with this location, is that the location itself did not have sufficient yield to meaningfully impact supply to the town. What we learned about chemistry is that the fluoride levels increase with depth. And at approximately 70 meters below ground surface, we encountered fluoride over the guideline. What this tells us is that within the AMA, drilling below that 70 meter below ground surface depth really is likely to have high fluoride results, which would then require further treatment or, which would require further treatment. So unfortunately, since this location didn't have sufficient volume to really meaningfully increase the town's volumes, it did provide the necessary information to really guide us in our next piece. So to quickly summarize, following the sustainability model, information gathering around the Paskapoo within the AMA ramped up. Incredibly useful information has been obtained that will help guide sustainable water sourcing into the future. At well 29, we encountered unexpectedly high fluoride. At well 30, a lot of positives over bacteria present would potentially yield resident complaints. At well 31, a low yield location. However, now we know more about how fluoride reacts with depth. Overall, it is key to understand that the Paskapoo is highly variable. Stepping even 100 meters away from a high yield well can result in a low yield well. Number 2, the information available to the town at the start of this process was nearly non-existent. However, through the efforts over the last couple of years, we are stepping in the right direction. We are utilizing a data-driven process and will be able to sustainably support the town in the near future. For potential paths forward, a few things. Number 1, well 29 is a very useful well, despite the fact that it is not able to to provide much volume to the town. This location is located central to 3 of the town's existing water supply wells and offers a great well for observation. This will give us insights into aquifer performance over time. With well 30, there is an option here to further clean up this well. Alternative methods to cleaning up a well do exist. So additional shock chlorination, mechanical, physical cleaning of the well could bring this one online pretty quick. Should the town decide not to go down that path, this well should be decommissioned as it could act as a potential contamination source. For well 31, unfortunately, there's just insufficient yield at this location at the depth investigated. So no further work really proposed. Long term, based on the information to date, there are a few options for path forward within the AMA. The first is to utilize a non-invasive or non-intrusive investigation in selected areas to guide final selection of a location for well installation. What this means is effectively we could run geophysical investigations such as ERT or seismic. This would allow us to map out that Edson Channel aquifer prior to putting a hole in the ground. Based on that mapping, we would then install a well in a very carefully selected location. The downside of this option is that there are potentially delays in getting a producing well in place. If the town would like to jump straight into drilling locations again, we have 9 locations that have jumped up on the priority list based on the information gathered in the last 2 years. Of these 9, 3 are particularly elevated due to their proximity to the Edson Channel aquifer. So we could potentially just advance a well in the near term. The risk is, if we go down the drilling route, it could yield another low producing location. So, thank you for the time to walk through this presentation and the progress to date. We feel a substantial amount of information has been obtained on the aquifer properties, both spatially and vertically. This information is being incorporated as we go to make all subsequent decisions more sustainable. If you have any questions, comments, please do not hesitate to ask.
Mayor Zahara.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much for your presentation. Obviously, water is a huge concern across the province, and for sure for our municipality, we know we need more water supply in order to grow our community. So I guess I have 2 questions and just a comment. And you might have already answered in your presentation. So how far away was well 29 from well 25, and why is there so much difference when well 25 was doing so well for us? And then I do think that, looking at well 30 and chalking it and doing what we can to see if we can make that a producing well, I think would be advantageous since we've already drilled that well. And then just a comment is I do believe we probably should look at mapping before we start spending hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to drill holes that we don't know are going to produce or not. If there are some that are near the Edson Channel that we think would be elevated, I'd be open to that, just so we can get some additional water online. But I think for the longer term, we do need to have some, really good data and know what we're doing instead of just throwing money at drilling holes and keep getting the same results. So just a couple comments in that question for you.
Through the chair to the mayor, thank you for the comments. For your first question, well 25 was approximately 100 meters away from well 29. The only reason it was moved is well 25 was located down a cut line nestled into some trees. And the town actually has an existing compound which we installed in right next to the pump house.
Yeah, to the chair, to the presenters. My question was mirroring Mayor Zahara's. Well 30, 2 to 3 treatments to remove the IRB at that well site. What does that cost comparatively if we just, as you mentioned, just go drill another well somewhere else? What is that cost of shock chlorination of that well? And secondly, question, I might as well get it at the same time. The well 25 was, we didn't drill it right next to the casing, and there was a reason why. I think you just mentioned it, but that was my questions. Thank you.
Through to the chair to Councillor Holden. With respect to well 30, a shock chlorination varies in cost, but be about $25,000 to $30,000 roughly, whereas drilling a new well depends on the type of information that you want to obtain from it. If you're just punching a hole into the ground, installing a well, you're probably looking at about $100,000.
Councillor Taylor.
Through the deputy mayor to the council and then to administration and to our presenters, thank you for bringing this information forward. It is frustrating that we have, of course, 3 wells that we spend a lot of time, energy, money on that we're not really seeing the results on. Obviously, we can learn from it, but it is frustrating. I echo Mayor Zahara's comments about water, the importance of water throughout the province and our community. It's always water in the wrong areas and water in the wrong amounts is typically what it boils down to. And we look at well 30, I guess we'll try to salvage something from that and looking at those shock treatments. But I guess the question is geared more towards administration then. Are we taking this, is the vision to take this data to perhaps a larger discussion, perhaps prior to whether budget 2027 or future budgets in terms of direction we want to go in terms of capital expenditures when it comes to well sites? And I guess GM Kitlitz would be the person to ask there.
GM Kitlitz.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So absolutely, I think if you looked at our capital plan now, we've sort of spaced out every 2 to 3 years. I think it's $500,000 in the plan for some well exploration. With this, what we're learning from what Council's been presented here today, I think we'll revisit that a little bit in terms of how much and where and when. But I concur with the sentiments of Council so far, is that we're probably better off using some science to try to pinpoint, because we're frustrated as well. It's a lot of time and energy to try to get this, and we're not seeing the results. So we're anxious to have some success here quicker sooner than later. So it's on the plan, but we'll be readjusting based on some of this information we get tonight.
Any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for your information.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next, presented by our Fleet and Utilities Manager, Darren Barisco, backflow and sump pump program update.
Hello there, Council. How are you guys? All right. Alrighty, so today we're just going to give you an update of where we're at with the sump and the backflow program. So a little bit of the background for some of our newer councillors. We had some flooding back in 2022, and that kind of sparked the way for us to administration to figure out what can we do for our residents, what can we do to help, what was some of the issues. So back then we had about 23 homes that flooded, so we actually put an RFP out to a bunch of the plumbers and companies. We wanted to see exactly why was the homes flooding, what was some of the issues that they were coming across. One of the biggest part of the investigations back then was obviously a lot of them didn't have working backflow preventer valves. And then a lot of that stuff in there, we found that a lot of the homes built in the 80s had weeping tiles and sumps that were attached to it. A lot of the stuff we learned obviously coming on in the future, coming up and just by investigation and talking to the homeowners and that type of stuff. So that's kind of some of the background where we got from there. And then just some of the results. And then obviously we got into the program with, it started off as a pilot program where we had $50,000 that council had set aside. And the idea being is that we were going to reimburse people for up to 50% of the cost to install that backflow prevention valve in their device to help protect their homes. So, and obviously just for a quick overview, obviously a sanitary backflow valve, if you're not familiar with it, all it does, if there's a pressure from the town side or the other side, it just closes the valve off and protects your home. And obviously the reason why we had added the sumps, which I'll get into a little bit farther from there, is obviously that doesn't help if your sump's connected to the house side of your sanitary sewer. Even though, let's say there's a backup in the sanitary sewer system, you've closed that valve, if your water's coming in from the weeping tile around, your house is still flooding, which is not a good thing. And sometimes it's really hard for residents to know whether it's groundwater getting into their home or is it sewer, because it just looks like water. Obviously sanitary sewer is 99% water, there's very, very small solids in it. So then the same thing, so a sump pump, obviously it takes the foundation drain or the weeping tile around it, puts it into a sump inside your home, and then ideally we want that to be pumped to the outside so it gets away from your foundation, gets away from the sanitary sewer. As I was explaining earlier, if you do have a pump that's connected to your sanitary sewer and we do have a backup situation and that valve is closed, that sump is pumping water into your basement through your floor drains. So it'll come up usually in a laundry drain or wherever your floor drains are from there. So basically the process that the residents go through is they fill out an application. It's available to town office, online. They can come down to Public Works. Basically, a plumber will come in. They will give them a quote, what it costs to do whichever they want. If they can pick the backflow, they can pick a sump pump, or they can pick both. Once they get that quote back, comes back to us, we make sure we have the budget, which, there's no reason why we're not going to say no at this point. But anyway, they would get the approval from us. We'd say, yep, go ahead. They get that work done. Once they pay the plumber, they give us a paid receipt. And it basically, then that's our go ahead, and we calculate 50% of that cost, and we reimburse the homeowner for that cost of the installation of whatever they chose to pick. So then obviously some of the ways we've done it is when people phone, we'll obviously let them know we have the program. If not, communications is done very well, putting out Facebook ads that are out there. Like I say, there's stuff all over, usually on the TVs. I think we've even put some ads out various locations before. And like I say, we'll let people know. The plumbers are really good also at letting everybody know if there's an issue and they've had a flood or something. They will let the residents know about the program that's out there so that they can obviously help them out too. So some of the program stats. So obviously when we first started, we had 25 people that did the backflow. Back then we didn't have the sumps as part of our program. 2024, we expanded the program. Council was also gracious enough to give us another $50,000, which gave us $100,000 in our operational budget to be able to do both. So then we've seen obviously 12 more people do the sump pump, and then we had 11 more people do the sump pump and the backflow together at the same time. 2025, obviously our stats are to date. So far as of November, we've got 8 backflows we put in, about 2 sump pumps, 11 that have done both. We do have, I think in total so far since we've done the program, we have about 8 people that have actually went so far as to get quotes, but have not pulled the trigger for one reason or another. They haven't said why, whether it's the cost or they decided not to do it or whatever it was, but there is about that. So far we've been able to stay under budget and within that allotted amount. So one of the things that just kind of shows the map on it all over the place. So one of the things is I didn't include 2022 or 2024, and this was just kind of based off the 2023 floods. And it just shows you, one of the things to note, we did put on there for the B1 project. For some of the newer councillors, we did have a committee meeting where we cut B1 project was taken up to 14th Ave. So we did have 4 residents up there that were affected by taking the B1 project scope a little bit less. And then council had approved 100% reimbursement for those homeowners, just as a precautionary one. I would like to note that out of those 4 homes that were offered the 100%, one chose not to participate in the program, which was their choice for some reason, which is up to them. And then other than that, it's basically, it's just kind of all over the place. And so obviously our next steps, we're going to continue to promote the program. We're obviously see the benefit to taking the groundwater out of our sanitary system, especially when we're already having challenging weather, not helping us. The next thing we're going to try to do is we're going to do for this year, council's approved a smoke testing for a pilot project. So basically, it's used to identify cross connections between storm sanitary systems, and it basically forces smoke into the pipe. And if it appears in an unexpected place, like a storm drain or vent, then that's where a cross connection could happen. Now, obviously, some of this stuff is a little bit easier to tell if you have like storm sewers that go into the houses, that kind of stuff. But we will be able to tell if, let's just say, you have a, like I say, a broken clean out or something on there, or if it's closer to your house and your roof leaders are going down into I'll call a hole beside your house, and all of a sudden there's smoke coming out of that. That lets us know that all that roof leader water is going into our sanitary system. So we'll be able to learn a lot of valuable information from that. So that's kind of our goals for 2026 to enhance that. And we're going to kind of pick the Tiffin area kind of thing, just as I guess just because we know there's a lot of groundwater up there kind of thing, and the houses around there kind of all go around that 1980s range, which is what we're kind of targeting for the most highest groundwater. Other than that, talked really fast, but there you go. Any questions?
Any questions from council? Councillor Wilson-Lair.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Manager Briscoe, Thank you for your presentation. Have you received any resident feedback on the people that have joined the backflow and the sump pump program in terms of any near misses or things that have been stopped by that? And I guess I'm asking because if we had feedback in that regard, we could maybe encourage people that haven't joined the program to, a lot of times people are all about the product, maybe not necessarily the process, and they wait until bad things happen and then it's a thing. But if we had that feedback from residents that have been through the program successfully, I'm just not sure if you've received individual feedback, I guess is what I'm asking.
Through the deputy mayor to Councillor Wilson Lear. We haven't necessarily had any of the backup from the people in the program, or haven't really heard any. No one's reached out to us, other than we did have one post, which council might remember, from the Moose Creek Hotel. Typically, they were in an area they were flooding a lot. They were one of the ones that did the program. They put the backflow in. We had that big event, and he didn't get flooded. That was one of the first times that he did put that post out publicly. One thing I can say from the data that I found is that houses that had previously flooded more than once they put in the sump and the backflow, have not flooded since then. And that was even after we had some of those pretty substantial rains. So like I said, it would be nice, I guess, if more people would maybe put the posts out themselves and say, hey, it worked. But I think the word of mouth is getting out there that it is a program that's worth it. There are some of the other ones that have, we've heard the feedback, I've never flooded before, so why do I need to do anything? And that always is a tough one. And we do honestly see the uptake when you have a rain event and the neighbors get flooded, everybody all of a sudden now comes in. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the humans, is we're kind of like, it's in the back of our mind, we're not really thinking about it, and then all of a sudden we're like, uh-oh, it's raining. Wait a second, I should probably look at this program. So I'm not sure, to be 100% honest with you, if there's more we could do other than hopefully that word of mouth. And I think the more that people participate in the program, the more everybody talks, the more word gets out that it's actually making a difference. The plumbers are talking to everybody. I'm sure the insurance adjusters have noticed a difference in what's going on. I think that itself, community will probably push that out more than we possibly can.
Councillor Taylor?
Did you? Okay, through the deputy mayor to administration, thank you for all your work, and Mr. Briscoe especially for the sump pump program and the success of it. Just getting people on board, we see the stats there, how many people are taking advantage of it. Looking at the smoke test as a avenue of going into 2026. Of course, you had to explain to me what a smoke test was because I had no idea. And I think that's going to be the challenge coming into next year is telling people what it is, how it works, the benefits. And with that, is there a cost to this in terms of, is this like hiring a plumber that has to do this kind of work, or is this something, how is this? And then the cost recovery method, it's 50%. Is that the vision for it? And yeah, just wondering some explanations on that. And just further to that, then explaining the overall benefits of all three, the smoke test, the backflow, the sump pump, and even talking about, I think you mentioned, insurance comes into play. Insurance companies do note that you have these things and there can be a reduced cost to your insurance. Can be is always the key term there. So just more questions about the smoke test though.
Sure. Yeah, through the deputy mayor to Councillor Taylor. The smoke testing basically will be by a company that's all that they do. So we'll have to put the RFP out. There's a few companies that come out of Edmonton that'll actually, that's all they do is the smoke testing. And really what we're trying to do is what we're finding is that obviously with that, and I guess I can kind of use the real world stuff, and I should have been a little bit more prepared. But I know last year when we had a lot of the rains, just for fun, I was looking at my own personal sump pump and trying to calculate the water and how much it was going when it was raining. So let's just say if you do have a sump pump, and I'm just going to spitball here, so I apologize for that without the real data. But about every 5 minutes or so, my sump pump was going off. Let's just say that's 2 gallons every 5 minutes. Now you figure that over a subdivision that has 50 houses, that's all going to our sanitary sewer. So what we're trying to do is gather some, you guys all know how much money we spent on B1 and a lot of our property or our upgrades do we really need the upgrades? Is it actually overwhelming because of capacity or structure issues? Is it undersized? Or are we putting more water or something into it? And that's what we're trying to gather that data with the smoke testing. Yes, the backflow preventers are really great for when we have those bigger events, but we're finding the sump pump has been huge for us. So if we can find out some of that information, I'd like to come back to council and say, you know what, council, I want to spend $50,000 and install sump pumps in 50 homes and save us $2 million down the road that we can use for other infrastructure upgrades would be, my absolutely best wish goal. Obviously, before I come to that, I need the data. So I'm going to do everything, or administration is going to do everything possible to give you guys that data so we can make an informed decision on how are we, fiscally responsible. What are we doing that's the best bang for our buck? Do we need to upgrade, or can I, like I say, do something as getting rid of our groundwater that's going and causing a capacity issue? Because obviously, as you know, if you start up here, 5 people put it in here, 5 people put down here. Well, if I'm that poor guy down in the bottom, I've got 50 guys of stuff coming down at me. And that's what we're just trying to look at. So we're trying to take a systematically approach and give us the data-driven information so we can actually move forward with something that makes sense and is tangible. And when you make a decision, you've got the best informed decisions you can.
CAO Beveridge.
Thank you, thank you, Deputy Mayor Fogarty. Through to council, I think that sometimes we can be guilty of no news is good news. Sometimes in these types of situations where we're dealing with flooding, we were dealing with solving a problem, providing solutions for our residents. I think it's highly appropriate that we go back to the people that participated within the program to seek their feedback. It is a program in which we put in place to assist in just ensuring that we've hit the mark as far as how is it working, and just some feedback as far as how the process went as well. So I think that's an opportunity here, given that it evolved at the start. It was first a backflow prevention program, and then it turned into, of course, the sump pump. And I think that we have all the information as far as our contact information. It wouldn't be that difficult to go out to our residents to ask them a few questions and be able to provide that back.
Councillor Schramm.
Yeah, through the chair to administration, great presentation, and it's great to see this program's off and running. Just a quick question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer anyway. This is a community-wide initiative, so basically anybody within the community can apply for this program, or is it more specific to flood-prone areas?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Schramm, it is open to everybody, business, resident, it's the whole community, everybody within our municipality it's open to.
Okay, and one more question to the chair. And then I kind of thought that anyway. I think the next step is to really enforce that in our messaging, that it is open, because I have heard some people say, my subdivision is not really prone to flooding, I don't really need this, but maybe they do need it, and maybe it's something we can do a little better in our messaging.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Holden?
Yeah, to the chair, to the presenter, Darren. Just wondering about the quote for by the plumber. So I purchased an older home in town, and I actually do have a sump pump functioning very well, great, but I wouldn't have a clue whether I have a backflow valve in there. So what cost to the homeowner is it to have the plumber come out? Or is that part of the package when you decide, oh, I don't have one, let's install one? And what kind of issues will be happening? Is my yard dug up? Is it done in my basement, et cetera, like that? For the average homeowner that hasn't got a clue on what really happens when that process is done to their home.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Holden, I guess I apologize, should have probably backed up a little bit for some of our newer councillors. So part of the program, there is no cost. It's basically just a quote, but the plumber will also camera, or we can have the town that will camera with it. And with that, then we can figure out, is there already some people already actually had backflow preventers that were underneath carpet, underneath tiling that someone had done previously, that type of stuff. So that's what they kind of look for. And then once they get there, they'll look, okay, do I have a finished basement? Do I have carpet? Whereabouts, typically, like I said, it's inside your house. They'll look at it, okay, where's the location of it? Because they usually have locators on it too. So they can figure out, oh no, we're gonna have to do a little bit more work. And then they can advise the homeowner at that point going, you know what, we're gonna have to rip out, some of your tile, that type of stuff. And that's why the cost varies so much. And we also don't want that to obviously be a detriment to someone who's, oh, we don't want to do it because it's, too much work or anything. But that's kind of the process. The plumber will come in at no cost to the homeowner, they'll do a fairly good investigation. They'll look at your drainage on the outside too, and they might give you some, that's kind of one we also got like a general questionnaire if you go down onto it. The plumber has a list of stuff that he'll look at, like say whether it's the roof leaders, where's your sanitary sewer, do you have a backflow preventer, do you have the sump, is the sump tied in? Because you can see that basically the sump, if you have weeping tile, you'll be able to see it. You can kind of tell usually where it goes from cast iron outside your house. And the plumbers are pretty good at, obviously that's what they do. They'll be able to tell you that, yeah, it looks like you do have something that's, weeping tile in there. You might not have a sump, or, this connection looks kind of funny in past experiences. This is where it should be, or that type of stuff. And then they'll base their quote based on that.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you, Manager Barisco. Pardon me, Mayor Zahara in at the last second.
No, I just want to thank the utilities department for the work on this and the plumbers. The feedback that I've received from residents is they're very appreciative of this program. I think that as unfortunate as the flood events were and the unfortunate circumstances it caused for so many residents, it really made us look deep into what the actual issues were to try to figure what the problem was. And I think we're finding the solutions now. And I think we're going to find some cost-effective solutions, so we're not spending, millions upon millions of dollars upgrading all the sewer lines when really it's probably not necessary if we actually know who's tied in incorrectly into our systems and then work with those homeowners to try to find a solution that makes sense for everyone. So thank you for that, and look forward to seeing more uptake in 2026.
And definitely a thank you to all of council for the support and for the increased, funding. It's allowed us to be able to expand the program. Like I say, without your support, none of the programs work. So, thank you guys for definitely supporting the programs and for being there when the residents need. So thank you very much.
Thanks again, appreciate it. All right, moving on. Next, we'll have GM Kitlitz present on the Municipal Development Plan Rewrite Project Update.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So we have our consultants from ISL Engineering who are joining us virtually. Chelsea Rudolph and Natalie Tremblay should be online, and there they are. So I will turn it over to them, and they will make a presentation to council, and then from there we'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Alrighty, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Natalie Tremblay, and I'm joined by my colleague Chelsea Rudolph. We are community planners at ISL Engineering, and today we are going to be going over our Municipal Development Plan Project Update, and it'll be a joint presentation with Chelsea and I. Yeah, so I just want to give a welcome to everybody in attendance tonight, and special welcome to the new councillors as well. So for our presentation or overview, today we're going to be going over the purpose, the process, and the rationale for the MDP project, where we're at currently in the project, where we are heading, and I'm going to pass things over to Chelsea to review our council workshop, which happened this previous July. So the purpose of this presentation is to introduce the Municipal Development Plan Update project to new council members and to provide an update on tasks completed thus far, as well as tasks yet to complete for the rest of the project, as well as summarize what we heard during the council workshop this past July. Yeah, so what is a municipal development plan? So a municipal development plan, or an MDP, is a long-range planning document that serves as a roadmap to guide community growth, development, and infrastructure needs. MDPs identify goals, objectives, and policies to link the physical and social development of the community. MDPs contain policies about future land use, development, sustainability, transportation, utilities, and municipal facilities. So on the right, there's a snip of the planning hierarchy in Alberta, just from the Town of Edson website. And as you can see, the municipal development plan policy document is kind of higher up in the hierarchy. So this document has more broader, high-level policies in it. So why are municipal development plans important? So the MDP is a statutory plan adopted by local bylaw that guides local growth and development. It essentially provides a framework and direction for the town to work towards. All local governments in Alberta are required to adopt a municipal development plan. And legislative requirements for MDP content are outlined within the MGA, or the Municipal Government Act. And these three snips below are just some maps from the 2016 MDP, just regarding existing land use, future land supply, and future land use concept. So why is the town updating their MDP? So as I just mentioned, the current MDP was adopted in 2016. Updating the MDP is important to reflect community needs, evolving development trends, recent changes in the community, and align with current provincial legislation. So for Edson, rewriting the MDP to more accurately reflect community conditions and realistic growth projections are the key drivers behind this project. So our MDP project is divided into 3 phases. The first phase, phase A, project startup and foundational work. We commenced work in June of 2025, so this past June, and we're projected to wrap up this phase in February of 2026. So this is the phase that we are also still currently in. And this phase includes the startup meeting, the community engagement plan, the town visit and council workshop from July, the technical MDP review and policy analysis, data collection and analysis, projections and forecasting, as well as our first round of community engagement. Then moving on to phase B, municipal development plan preparation. So this phase we're commencing in this December and wrapping it up in May of 2026. And so phase B includes promising practice review, a draft vision and community priorities, and the second round of community engagement, as well as some draft MDP policies for review. And our third and final phase of the project is phase C, finalization and adoption. And this is scheduled to commence from May to October 2026. And so this phase includes the third and final round of community engagement, finalizing the MDP, referral agency circulation, as well as first reading, second reading, third reading, and the public hearing process. Yeah, so as you can see here, this graph shows exactly where we're at and the work that we've completed thus far. So we have finished the startup meeting, the community engagement plan, the town visit and council workshop, the technical MDP review and policy analysis, and the background document review. And we are currently working on the data collection and analysis, the projections and forecasting, as well as the council update, which we are currently at right now. And so I'm going to pass the baton over to my colleague Chelsea to finish out our presentation.
Thank you so much, Natalie, and good evening, everyone. So before we head into where we're heading with this project, I wanted to pause and provide a quick update on the key takeaways from what we heard during our council workshop in July of 2025, which was completed with the previous term council members. And some of them are sitting around the table tonight. So wonderful to see you again, and definitely wonderful to start getting to know the new councilors who have joined. So the workshop that we conducted over the summer involved 3 major discussion questions. So the first was, what is your aspirational vision for the community? And the main things that we heard through that discussion was around a variety of housing, focus on families, more industrial growth in local businesses, re-envisioning the downtown, town beautification, and access to services and amenities. The second question that we asked was, what are you hearing from residents about their needs and hopes for the community? So we heard about cost of living increases, things like taxes and utilities, infrastructure and housing challenges, access to healthcare, perception of crime, town beautification and pride, and the quality of roads. And then we closed out our session asking if there were any emerging trends or strategic priorities that we should be aware of as we embark on this project. And at the time, we heard about the housing strategy, the economic development strategy, understanding current infrastructure challenges, maintenance of green and open spaces, and understanding trends with federal and provincial funding. So, just in recognition that, like we mentioned, this conversation did happen with the previous council, we just wanted to give an overview of the discussion that we had and just let current council know that if you have anything that you would like added or changed to the information that you're seeing here on the screen, we're definitely happy to accept that through town administration. So if you're thinking about this later tonight or maybe later this week, feel free to pass along that information to town administration and they can provide that to us. So where are we heading with the Municipal Development Plan project? So in the short term, which we're talking the end of this year and early 2026, we will still be in phase A, as Natalie mentioned. But the next thing that you're going to see from us is launching the first round of community engagement, which is really centered around bringing people together. This will be kicking off in January. We're planning to do some education and awareness kind of early to mid-January, and then launching our input opportunities towards the third or fourth week of January. So this will include developing some communication materials, so branding to give the project a unique and identifiable symbol so people can recognize when they're seeing something to do with this project. Doing a bit of an education campaign with a few did you know questions, some social media posts, as well as a series of hypothetical or fictional community stories about the different types of people who might be in Edson and how they might interact with the municipal development plan document. From there, once we have some general awareness of the project, what the document is, and that we're updating it, we'll be launching an online survey. We will have a drawing contest available, which is open to everybody in the community, but is more centered around the younger residents and youth, where they can draw pictures or color things that they like about the community or things that they would like to see in the future. We are scheduling a workshop with the Youth Council, and we'll hopefully also have a workshop with targeted stakeholders. We haven't reached out to them yet, but that's on our to-do list before Christmas. And then Natalie and I will be in Edson in person to do 2 community pop-ups, so kind of shorter advertising opportunities at different locations around the town to once again let people know this project is happening and make them aware of the input opportunities that are available. And we'll also be doing a longer community open house event where residents and community members can come talk to us face to face about the project and we can collect input from them that way. After all of those opportunities have concluded, we'll be preparing an engagement summary that summarizes all of the opportunities, the key takeaways and themes that we heard, and how it's going to inform the next stages of the project. And then looking a little bit longer term into the future phases of the project, I know Natalie already outlined this, but phase B is really where the bulk of the development of the plan is taking place. So we're going to do a bit more research to see what other communities are doing once we have an idea of what challenges the community is facing, especially from the community's perspective. We'll draft a community vision and identify some community priorities, and then we'll go back out to the community to relay that information and collect more feedback. And then we'll draft the policies, which is really the meat and potatoes of the municipal development plan that will guide and direct future growth, development, and change within the community. And then once that section is drafted, we'll go back out to the community for a final time to gather feedback on those pieces. And then we'll work with the town to finalize the document and then come back to you for hopefully approvals or decision on the updated plan. So that is a lot of information in a very short period of time, but we just hope that helps give a little bit of an overview about the purpose, the rationale, the intent of the project, what we've done so far, where we're going. where you'll see us next and hopefully where we might see you next. So yeah, that concludes our presentation, and we're happy to take any questions or comments if there are any at this time. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Council, any questions or comments? Councillor Taylor?
Through the Deputy Mayor to our presenters, thank you for your continued work on this and your presentation tonight. Just a couple of, whether it be recommendations, if we could perhaps have administration perhaps send out, we saw the list of questions that went to the previous council, and just making sure we send that information to all new members of council, whether it is the ones that were there before have new information, but certainly to our 4 newer members that want to contribute and ensure that your voices are captured in this early in the process. I think that's important. If it's this council that's going to approve it, this council should have a huge say in how it's structured and what's in it. And just also recommendations to our presenters from ISL. When you come out and do your community pop-ups or community open house, and this is something I stress whenever we do these types of things, is try to connect it to a community event that's already taking place. Please contact our administration for events that do take place, because that's where people are. We generally find when we have open houses and say, come out to our open house, we get ones of people that attend. If you want more than that to have a say in what, in this, we have lots of events happening January, February, Family Day and other things like that, that you can attend where lots of people will be in attendance. So those are my comments.
Councillor Wilson-Lair.
Through the Deputy Mayor to our presenters and to administration, Councillor Taylor answered my question very well in terms of this council's strategic priorities and how they will form part of the end result for this plan. So the one question I had, and this is for clarity for me as a new councillor and also for the broader public knowledge, is that we're currently, administration is currently working on an asset management plan, and I'm just wondering if this aligns with the asset management plan work, or if the asset management plan work will then align with the municipal development plan going forward.
GM Kitlitz?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That's a great question. Interestingly enough, we were already started doing this work. So Chelsea mentioned the data analysis that's being done right now. We've sent ISL all of our infrastructure data to date, all of our modeling, CAD drawings, any of the data that we have to date. And they're actually going through that exercise right now. So remembering that the MDP is at a 50,000 foot level, we're not going to get down into pipe sizes and valves and hydrants. It's meant to help us determine where and if we can grow and how we would service that if we do decide to grow in a certain area. So they're connected. They're not the same, but they do inform each other. So we are doing that work. And if I could, Deputy Mayor, just with regards to Councillor Taylor's question about sending out the workshop questions to council again, just to be clear, is that okay if we do that via email and get feedback via email? Is that okay with council if we do it that way? Okay, that's what we'll do then. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. All right, thank you to our presenters from ISL, and thank you to administration for all their work in this as well. And we look forward to seeing you much more over the next 8 to 10 months or so. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, all.
All right. Do we have anything for closed meeting session this evening? We do not. So we will move on to, just before we adjourn, thanks to council for wearing their Christmas attire today, and to administration for doing that as well. Appreciate that. And Merry Christmas, everyone. And I'll call this meeting adjourned at 9:08.